When I'm looking through cookbooks for recipes for the show here, sometimes I see recipes that instantly look like they would be amazing, and some that look like they would be terrible. And then sometimes I get ones like the one we're going to do today, which is just outright weird and something I have never seen before. I don't think it's going to be a bad one. I just think it's going to be totally different than anything I've ever made before. What do you think? Today's recipe is from a book that is called Treasures of 100 Cooks, and it seems to be, from the foreword, basically a family cookbook, as she said, from multiple generations that have compiled recipes that their family has enjoyed, and she has compiled them together, Miss Mary Allen Hulbert. We're going to start by boiling 2 cups of carrots. While our carrots are cooking, I'm going to separate out 6 eggs, the yolks and the whites, because we're going to be doing different applications with each part of the eggs here. And I also have measured out the other ingredients that we're going to be using as well for our recipe today. We're going to beat the yolks of the eggs. And after we have those beaten, I'm going to add 2 cups of cream and mix that into the yolks. Once that's combined, we're going to add 1 cup of breadcrumbs and a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, a half teaspoon of paprika, and we're also going to add what calls for a teaspoon of onion juice. But onion juice is fairly hard to come by. It's not impossible to find, but I just am going to add about a tablespoon of minced onions here, and that'll be just fine. And then we're going to mix that all up together. When the carrots have cooked, move them into a sieve, and we are going to then mash these into a bowl and get these soft and ready for the recipe. I messed with the sieve long enough to know that that was not going to work well, so I pulled out a potato ricer and used that on the carrots, and this is what came out. I'm fairly pleased with it. It's basically just a mashed carrot. One of the final steps before we put this thing into the pan and into the oven is we need to whip or beat the egg whites, and then we're going to add that to the carrots. Now that our egg whites have been beaten and they are ready to go, we are going to add our last 2 ingredients into our bowl here. We have our carrots and the egg whites, and then we're going to mix those together. We're going to put those into a greased pan, and it calls for a well-buttered border mold. The closest thing I have is a bundt pan, so that's what I'm using. If you have something fancier, go for that. It's up to you, but that's what I'm going to do, is a bundt pan. The directions say to poach in a pan of water in the oven for half an hour. So I have a baking dish full of water, and that's as close to poaching as I'm going to get with the equipment that I have. And that's just going to go in, like I said, for 30 minutes. It's a very mild flavor, but this is actually quite a good little side dish. I could see this going well with a roast or any sort of traditional meal like that. I mean, this is 1927, so it is, you know, going to go along with a more traditional meal such as a roast or something like that. It reminds me a lot of a corn casserole, if you've ever had a corn casserole, or sometimes it's called corn pudding if you're from the South, except there's no corn in this, it's carrot. And the peas and the white sauce and all of these things have very mild flavors on their own. So it's not a strong flavor, but you do taste the carrot. You do, it's got a very nice feel to it. It's light, it's fluffy. I thought that this would almost be quiche-like, but this is not a quiche. It is just light and airy, and it's almost like a simple bread. Now, there are the breadcrumbs in there, which likely is why that is. But this actually is quite good, considering that it's so simple. I think that it could use some extra salt, some extra pepper, and things like that just to up the flavor a little bit. But I really don't mind this. Something I've never made before. I don't know if I would make it again, just because it is kind of out there, but I really don't mind this for this experiment that this was. I'll have a little bit more, and we'll see you next time on Recipe Reviver.